Do it or ditch it time has arrived. Typically, this is where we focus in on an attraction or an experience and ask the question, is this worth doing or giving up entirely? But today we are pitting two attractions against each other based purely on the fact that they're very similar and they have kind of the same type of universe that they come from and the same type of ride system almost to a certain degree. And that is Millennium Falcon Smugglers Run versus Star Tours, The Adventures Continue. Now, at Disneyland Park, these are both inside of that gate. So in Tomorrowland, you'll find Star Tours The Adventures Continues, and then, of course, in Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, the Millennium Falcon Smugglers Run. And then over in Walt Disney World at Disney's Hollywood Studios, you'll find that both of these are in Disney's Hollywood Studios all by itself. So both of these attractions are right down the road from each other, just like they are in Disneyland. We reached out to you and said, when it comes down to it, would you prefer Millennium Falcon Smugglers Run or Star Tours The Adventures Continues? Here's what you said. Smugglers Run got 49% of the vote. Star Tours got 51% of the vote. Star Tours, Katrina, Tyler, is well over 30 years old at this point.
Yeah.
Millennium Falcon Smugglers Run is less than a year old. New technology, right? All this new infusion in terms of ride system, everything, 30 some odd years in which to improve upon the concept of a motion simulating type experience. Many people compare these two together because you're kind of doing something very similar. You know, you're going through the galaxy, you're going through the Star Wars universe, you're experiencing something out a window. Now, granted, Millennium Falcon, you are seated as part of a role. So you could be an engineer, you could be a pilot, you know, you could be a gunner, you could be doing all these different roles in the experience. And certainly a lot more can happen in terms of overall effect after you get off the ride. But Star Tours, with its updates and with all of its advancements over time, now has different missions you can go on and different experiences that will happen within the cabin itself. And so it's more randomized. When it comes down to it, what do you guys say?
Let's talk about this.
Yeah, I've got a lot to say.
I mean, I'm gonna ditch Smugglers Run. It's only been a year old and it's already boring.
Wow.
Like, I'm already done with it. I'm sorry. I don't care what anybody says. Star Tours to me always makes me like have a fun time and laugh. Even when I'm sitting next to people like who with stinky Crocs or whatever, I always have a blast at like Star Tours just because everybody's on the even playing field.
Yeah.
So you literally stand in line for over an hour on Smugglers Run, and then you get gunner or you get engineer. But then your brother gets pilot and then you lose it. Because I'm like thinking of like my 5-year-old self being like, if my brother got pilot and I got engineer, I would be livid. Because again, if you're a small child, you can't see, you would have to like literally be like this, like over on the side trying to press buttons and trying to see the screen. And for me, I don't really want to wait in line for over an hour and get engineer or gunner. Like I would want to be a pilot. And then when you're in Star Tours, everybody is sitting in this, like, you know, you're like, you know, in a stacked position, so you can kind of see over everybody's head, and you're in the same position. You always get jostled around. You go up, you go down. You get to go in like new worlds. Every time you go on, there's like new scenes, so you're never going to get the same exact things. So it always kind of changes just a little bit to make it new. And then for Smugglers Run, yeah, like things change because of the pilots and stuff, but
It doesn't really change.
I don't want to give.
It's all superficial change.
Yeah,
in Smugglers
like, I don't
Run.
want to give my fate to somebody to ruin my experience. I would just rather all sit in the same row and see the same exact thing, and then have the same exact experience where we all get jostled around, up and down, break, fall, whatever. Versus someone else being a pilot when I stood in line for over an hour and a half and they got pilot and I didn't. So. That's just me.
Pretty fast.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's no contest. Like, Star Tours is so much better. I mean, after all these years, they have updated it a lot, so we can't just say, 30 years old, sure, but it has been changed over the years, of course. But
enhanced.
they do add new scenes.
I mean,
every
one
now
of the
and then,
things
so it's fun.
that's yeah, exactly, and that's one of the things for me that is also a negative against Smugglers Run is that it's running on it's a in-engine thing. You're actually interacting with this video game basically. So when of course when they do a movie it always looks better. Like any Toy Story movie or whatever is going to look better than any video game because they can pre-render it because they don't have a computer, actually running it real time. So things look better in Star Tours to me than they do in Smugglers Run.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just weird stuff. Like even at the end of Smugglers Run, the audio cuts off every single time. Hondo is in the middle of telling you something. He's like, something gets on the roof, and he's like, "Oh, there's something on the roof," and then all of a sudden it just goes, "Oh, get out!" The door opens. He's like, "Get out!" It's like, wait, well, I wanted to know it was on the roof. Like it's just weird stuff like that. I feel like every time I go on Smugglers Run, I feel like I do horrible or bad. Like those are the two that we do. We never do good. It's never a successful mission. We always halfway destroy the Millennium Falcon, and Chewbacca's always mad.
And we're not the pilots, so
well, even when we are the pilots, and we've done the thing before where it was just the two of us.
Oh yeah, it was flawless.
And we were just flawless with pilots. And I'm not saying that just to toot our horn. I'm saying that because it was clear that the game was purposely ramming us into certain objects that we could not avoid.
Huh.
Yeah.
And it does that. I don't know why. At the end of the game, I keep calling it a game. It's not really a game.
That's how it feels, though.
But
right?
that's what it is.
It's like a
it
video
really
game.
it is. Yeah. At the end, they smack you into this column every single time, and there's no possible way to avoid it. And then that's when Chewie takes over. But every single time you smack into the column, you lose points. So it's like it just feels bad. It's just like, why did they make these weird choices? It just makes me angry every time I go on it because I feel like it just doesn't make sense. It has no branching paths. Like it seemed like that was such a no-brainer. Like it could have been like, hey, if you do well, you'll go this way. But it's the same either way. There's a moment where you have to slam the brakes. If you do slam the brakes, you still get pulled down and crash. If you don't slam the brakes, it's the same exact outcome. So it's just stuff like that where it's like, okay, it doesn't feel. I feel like we need a new step. When you go on rides like Toy Story Midway Mania or what's the other one? Buzz Lightyear. They have like scoring. They have like ranking sheets. You know exactly. Like, oh, okay, if I get 500,000 points, I'm a space ranger or whatever. You know exactly what you're shooting for. Okay, I get a good score must be 200,000 on Toy Story because that's the top prize, right? Okay, that means I did really well.
On the same playing field on those games, though, and that's the thing that makes me mad.
Sure, that's true too, But it's just one of those things where it's just so confusing to know, and there's like a ranking system and everything. It's like it'll say like rank pirate, and you're like, okay, what does that mean? Like, it's just confusing overall. I've just seen more people confused than not confused, and I wish that the cast members would say one thing when they started the ride, which is look at everybody and say, if you don't wish to interact with this, don't activate your console, because then you can just sit there, enjoy the ride. You can watch, because I know some people just want to watch. I've heard that complaint before. Like, I don't want to play it. I want to just watch. And I've seen people, we've ridden with people, our friends, that have just sat there
and we're like
staring, and you're like, and you're kind of like, hey, like, you have a job to do over there, like, and you don't want to. You also feel like a jerk when you call people out. You're like, hey, dude, like, hit the buttons, like, and you kind of feel. So it's just like this weird. I don't know. It's like everybody needs to be on the same level. You all need to be. You need to be there for just fun, which I guess that should really be what we're all there, I guess, for. Or you need to be there to do a good score.
I'm like, please.
But after we've been on it a number of times, sometimes we want to get a good score. You do want to get a good score after you've done it a number of times. So, let's face it, that's what you want. Otherwise, these games or these rides like Toy Story wouldn't matter.
Sure.
Even like a game, I keep calling it games, but even a ride like Men in Black, you all are like your face. It's people versus people. It's not people versus this AI machine thing. And I don't know. If you're a gunner, it's like the most boring thing you've ever done in your life. I'm sorry I have 9 million negative things to say about this ride, but I just feel really strongly that it seemed like a really good idea on paper.
Yeah.
And it was like, hey, what if we let people drive the Millennium Falcon? And that made people really excited. And then by the time they dumped a lot of money into it and were far along, they were like, actually, we don't know how we're going to do this. And I think
Right.
that,
The concept sounds awesome.
right, yeah.
You're right. You're absolutely right. On paper, this thing sounds like, oh, it can't lose.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
this sounds like it's a perfect attraction. Absolutely. Who doesn't dream of potentially piloting the Millennium Falcon?
But that's the main thing, right? Piloting.
Yeah, right.
But then there's 4 other people that don't get to pilot.
Yeah.
And then that also is kind of like, well, I mean, I'm sure it's everybody's dream to pull the lever.
That's what I've heard everybody say.
And that really makes me sad for those people that have, again, waited in line for over an hour. And we've seen those lines get pretty long, backed up into Toy Story Land, waiting for Smugglers Run, because everybody's waiting for their Rise of the Resistance callback. So you're waiting in line for over 2 hours, and then you get gunner or engineer.
And are you going to be the one to pull the pilot card away from the little 6-year-old that just got pilot and you just made their day? I mean, you have to make their day. Of course you want them to be happy, you know? So it's like, you know, I'm not going to take the pilot card away from them, but in the same time, it's like, well, now I waited in that line for this experience that I'm not really going to enjoy that much.
And we've asked the cast members before, you know, because we stood in line and we wrote it during like the, you know, if you stay at a hotel, you get that hour to go in. So we did that and we wrote it numerous times, and we always got gunner or engineer, and we wanted to be a pilot. So we asked, we're like, and again, 2 kids got pilot, and we're not gonna be like, oh, we haven't been pilot yet. And then so we went to a cast member and they said, well, you can deal with your group. And I'm like, we don't know them. There's 2 children. We're not going to take that away from the 2 children. And so we're like, is there a way to do it on the next ride? And they're like, and they kind of like huffed about it, and they weren't very happy.
Yeah.
And then
So I went to another cast member.
So we went to another cast member, and then they're like, oh yeah, come with us. But again, we had to ask 2 people. And again, like, I know people are probably gonna be like, oh gosh, that's so annoying. Like, just take what you got. But again, we wanted to ride each one. We stood in line. We paid for it, you know, again, like not entitlement, but like, you know, we paid for a hotel room to do this. And so we've ridden it so many times. We wanted to make sure we rode it left and right on every single like seat. So
you did your due diligence to do what you wanted to do.
Yeah, and so again, we're like, oh man, I just wanted to be a pilot. And again, it's just like they should have made a ride where everybody got to do that and made it like more private, like, you know, I don't know, like I want to say like the Avatar ride, the Flight of Passage, like how everybody's just the same level, but doing it somehow where everybody's a pilot. Yeah. I don't know how that's gonna happen.
Something along those lines, right?
Everybody's able to pull the lever.
Or at least if I think it would have been. I wish they would have gone with the full gunner thing, like in the movie where you were like swirling around in a chair and
that
stuff,
would be
right?
fun. That'd be
That would be a ride, right?
I feel like a lot more people would appreciate being a gunner.
Yeah, exactly. Because
when
when
you're
you're a gunner,
be a pilot, I want to be a gunner now.
Yeah, as it stands right now, you know, it's not fun to do manual gunning, which is you have 3 buttons, and auto gunning is just ridiculously mundane because it's just 1 button. You literally have 1 button for the entire ride until you get to the torpedoes at the end. Yeah, you just hold down your button. That's all you're doing. How is that like interactive? Like, what are you interacting with?
Right.
It's just. It's sad.
So
that's the thing is like when you have a catered experience like Star Tours, it is always going to be better than this thing that is like trying to cobble together a good experience with 6 people and you just hope that they know what they're doing. And I hate to sound like such a fuddy-duddy. I feel like I do in a way, but
fuddy-duddy.
Negative Nancy.
But like at the same time, I just know that like I'm gonna laugh. I mean, like yeah, I know. That's me. That's what they call me. I just know I'm going to have a good time on Star Tours. That's the thing. And especially with this newest iteration, it's funny. Like, I really do like the new one. And you get like
we went on it like 3 times.
Yeah,
you
got
like fast passes for it, and we bolted on it.
And you get a little blast from the past in there and everything. There's a little creature from Star Wars past. So it's just cool to see that stuff. And it made me a lot happier than flying down a gray hallway blowing up TIE fighters. So
well, let's jump out to Walt Disney World and check in with Garrett Hassel, who is in front of Star Tours. Garrett, what do you make of it? Do it or ditch it? Which one over which one?
So both attractions are very creative in how they operate, because when Star Tours came out and you flew Captain Rex in the cockpit and you're going down like that crevice on the Death Star, I was like, man, I am in Star Wars. And then when you go on Millennium Falcon, you're like, I'm in the fastest hunk of junk of the galaxy. It is so nostalgic. So both of them have their pros and cons. But for me, I've got to go with Star Tours being the superior one, just because I
Ooh.
don't know, like I enjoy it because I like how there's a random sequence where the ending is the same, but you could end up like you could start off interacting with Darth Vader or Kylo Ren or just stormtroopers, and then there's another one where you like get a hologram of BB-8 or Yoda or Leia. I like how there's this randomness because no two rides are ever the same, except I seem to always get the same two rides over and over again. I don't know how, but for me, when I went on, like, my thing is gonna be short and sweet, but when I went on Smuggler's Run, for me the best part was walking up to the ship, and then finally when I was in the queue and actually walked onto the cruise quarters where you just see the chessboard and you see where all this everyone. So that for me made the ride for me, and then walking into the cockpit when the attraction actually began, it was very cool. But I thought being like I was on a movie set was the more impressive thing, if that makes sense.
That's
I
a really
agree.
good
And
point. Yeah.
yeah, I agree with you.
The queue for Smuggler's Run is far superior. Hondo Onaka, the audio animatronic, is phenomenal.
Right.
It's beautiful. It's gorgeous, and it segues so quickly. You don't even know where you end the queue, and you are actually on the ship. It blends so well. The Star Tours queue, I prefer the one in Disneyland actually, just because it blends in with the area better. But Star Tours, it has the nostalgia. It's random, and I like how they keep updating it with what is going on. I truly hope that in the future they add some Mandalorian stuff in there. Just imagine seeing the
That'd be
child
cool.
popping up in there, going like, that, like just like
Oh,
making
baby
some
Yoda.
baby noise, and then like, hey, baby, do the wavy hand thing. That would make me laugh so much. However, there are rumors that there are going to be additional missions for Smuggler's Run in the future. I hope that they come sooner rather than later because everyone wants Rise of the Resistance. Smuggler's Run is just popular because people are waiting for Rise of the Resistance. But for me, overall, my last point, and then I've got to go take a nap, is Star Tours even though it's 30 years old, it's a good show. It's a fun time. You feel like you're in the movies. I just wish they brought back Captain Rex every once in a while, just because I miss him being like, it's probably your first flight and it's mine too. Like that line just got me every time because it wasn't his first flight and it wasn't mine either. But yeah, Star Tours for me takes the cake, and Smuggler's Run, while it is entertaining, the queue is the best part about it. And you can say that about a lot of attractions where the queue is sometimes often better than the attraction. You can say that about a few things.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with you there, and it certainly sounds like when it comes to those rumors, I've heard them too about different missions for Smugglers Run. It sounds like maybe the teams that were responsible for this quickly realized that there should probably be more to it than this. There should probably be more engagement because you do have Star Tours right across the park in both coasts, and you do have multiple things that you could be doing. You do have multiple missions that you could be experiencing. Producer Kurt, let's jump over to you. What do you think?
I mean, I think just about everything has been said. The problem I had with Smuggler's Run when I wrote it, one time we were both assigned as engineers, and the pilots in front of us were just hitting everything. So we were spending almost the whole ride just trying to fix everything, and we couldn't really focus on what was going on during the ride. And that just really took it out for me. I just...
Yeah,
I want
that's
to
not fun.
Yeah, I want to see what's going on, and I'm just looking over here at this control console the whole entire time. That's not
What happens
fun.
if the
Yeah.
pilots are trying to do it on purpose and try to hit everything, but you're trying to
Yeah.
do a good job so you can earn points for your little app thing?
Right. Yeah.
So
Yeah, that too. And then, like, sometimes I've had pilots too where they're not really good at video games really. So I got a little nauseous and sick too because they were just constantly
I
moving
can't do
back and
engineer.
forth. Yeah.
it makes me nauseous.
Yeah. So it's just,
Aw.
Yeah, like at
That
least
really makes
something.
me mad for
I know.
him.
Yeah, I know
Yeah.
that's terrible.
Gosh.
And like again, going back to Men in Black, like I know that's in a Universal park, but that's a ride where you are in a team with 5 other people, but what they're doing doesn't necessarily like ruin your experience. Like you're
Yeah.
not just being smacked into the ground the entire time like
Yeah.
you were, you know. So it's one of those things where I just wish they could have solved the problem of guests being a detriment to others. I hate to say that, but that's
Certainly.
really what happens.
Yeah.
I mean,
Because I'm sure you wanted to participate, but then
Yeah, exactly.
because again, like you can not activate your console and then you can just sit there, or But for people that engineer and like you're like, oh, I'm gonna get vertigo, and you're like trying
Yeah.
to do this, like that's not fun.
Yeah, and then for Star Tours, you also get the chance of being maybe that rebel spy.
Oh yeah,
You know, that's
he finally
always
was able to do it on the last trip.
I know,
I
I
was
was
like,
so
oh, I know
excited.
him.
so there's some interaction.
That's always
there.
I was like,
fun.
sorry.
Yeah,
That's
I
a good
think
point.
Star Tours in general, it comes down to it's a much more communal experience. And it's a lot easier to appreciate something when it's a communal experience and you're not racing to try and one-up each other or trying to support the functions of the ship and trying to
Sure.
figure out what to do and trying to watch the screens, trying to watch outside of your windshield and seeing what's happening while at the same time making sure that you're doing everything that you should be doing on a console. And it's very stressful, Smugglers Run. And it's not always something that I enjoy doing. I remember the first time after getting off of it and I thought, okay, one time's good enough. You know,
Yeah.
I didn't feel like I had any need to go back on it. I didn't feel like it was anything revolutionary other than the novelty of flying biggest hunk of junk in
Right.
the galaxy.
Yeah, I mean, as somebody who, I mean, I do play a lot of video games, so I just, you know, I feel like I have kind of a knowledge of what makes a decent game, like what, you know, the language that a game needs to speak to people, and I just feel like, just in general, this game is just confusing to the average person, and I've just been on it with so many people who don't understand what's happening, and even myself, we went on it the first time, and like you, I was like, okay, but then I was also like, but I have to be missing something, so
Yeah, right.
But I got to keep going until I figure out what I'm missing.
Yeah, like some
and
secret.
and I
thing,
went on
I don't
and
know.
we went, you know, we stayed at hotels like a number of times during that period, so we got to go on Smugglers Run over and over again to the point where she was like, I'm done, I'm not doing this anymore.
I was like, I'll wait. I'm gonna wait outside and
Yeah.
watch the fireworks. I think that's like a lot more enjoyable.
and so we did it a number of times where it was just like, I'm not missing anything.
Yeah.
I get it.
We
And
learned
I'm
about the red button, about the brakes, and we're like, oh, maybe that's it. That's the moment when you actually brake before you go down. Nope, just pulled you right down.
I don't know.
There's no like, congratulations, you did this. We're able to like continue, you know. And I get it. They have to end at the exact same time so everybody can get off because it's like a rotation. But I don't know. I just wanted something more. I'm hoping that they add in new scenes. I'm hoping that it doesn't, and that it like, you know, and they don't just do it for everybody, but like do it like Star Tours, where if you go on, it's like a little pieces are different, you know.
Yeah, I hope they do branching paths.
Yeah, not
you
like
can
oh, we have
change
a
your
brand
own
new story
experience.
now, but everybody gets it for the next year,
It'll
and
make
then
things a lot
you
better,
know,
yeah.
because like that sometimes that's a little boring. I don't know, just like switch it up. I do have to say some positive note really quick. That it is really cool if it's nighttime and you're flying the Millennium Falcon, or if you do get to fly it or engineer or whatever, that if it's nighttime, you land in Batuu at night. I thought
Right.
that was interesting. So
Yeah,
it's,
that is neat.
And if it's day, it's daytime. So I
Same
thought that
for
was
Rise of the Resistance, which is really neat.
right. And I
Yeah.
thought that was fascinating.
Yeah.
Positive note.
There's your positive.
Well, so you're talking about branching patches, but our path is. But what if you get that pilot that just doesn't want to go? It keeps going the same path every time. You
Oh,
know?
yeah.
Then it's just more
That's
frustration.
That's exactly
Or the ones
the
that
thing,
think it's
yeah.
funny to keep bashing
Yeah.
it in because they're like, let's see how much damage I can do. And you're
Yeah.
like, this is not what I signed up for.
No.
That's exactly the thing. And then the other part too is that then it directly affects how many credits you actually get on your own personal account on the Play Disney app. So it's just a bunch of things that add up to make it an experience that, like, by the end is just more frustrating than fun. Anyway, I feel like we've harped on this for quite a while. And,
Quite all right. And
yeah.
I mean, there's certainly a lot to talk about in this regard. And I thought it was a great topic for the sake of, you know, you did have an attraction that's been around for 30 plus years. You have one that's brand new. And the poll said everything. You know, people are pretty split on this as to which one's
Surprising how
better.
close it was.
Right? Yeah. Again, 51% say they favor Star Tours over the 49% for Smugglers Run. It certainly speaks to how people are feeling right now when it comes to that brand new ride over in Galaxy's Edge. So it does sound like Star Tours is the do it, and we have a ditch it when it comes to Smugglers Run. A little disappointing to
Unanimous.
hear. Yeah, after
Pretty much.
such a short amount of time.
To all who come to this happy place, welcome.